Alright, let's try to make something now in a sequential function chart which is actually going to do something and that we can actually test out on emulate and see how it flows, see how it does its thing. So coming in here, let's go ahead and take a new project. We're going to call this one Tank 2. And let's see, we will put that one on the desktop as well because you're going to want this just in case you have a copy of 5000 laying around and want to practice a little bit. Let's get this thing loaded up and come in here to main program. Once again, create a new routine. And let's see, that's going to be a sequential function chart. And we'll just call that SFC1. Hit OK, and we should be good there. Now, the first thing I want to do, I want to set our SFC up to actually run. So let's put a JSR in here, and we're going to call that SFC1. Got it. And then let's just try and get rid of those extra input parameters because I hate those things being there. One more. Got you. Oh, no, I didn't get you. Come on. There we go. Okay, now I've got a clean jump to stub routine, and that's going straight to SFC1. Let's open up SFC1, and here we've got our chain already started for us. So I don't like this step 0 name. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give this thing a more useful name. And I'm going to call that sys_stop. And the first thing I need to do once I give it that name, you see I've got an undefined tag. So the name of your step actually is a tag. And I want to create a new one, and you see my data type is SFC step. That's exactly what I want it to be, so I'm just going to go ahead and create it. And then I've got this transition 0 name, and I can rename that if I want to, but honestly I'm not that concerned with my transition names right now. So you've already seen how to rename a step. I think it goes without saying if you wanted to rename a transition by now it would be exactly the same thing. So whenever we first start this system, our initial step is going to be this one right here, my system stop. So I don't need to configure anything inside of there. I'm happy with the way everything is right now. So let's go ahead and leave that. And now let's define some action for my system stop. So what is this thing actually going to be doing? Well, I'm going to bring in an action, and system stop is going to put my machine in the stop mode. And what does the stop mode look like? Well, I'm going to use an integer to control my mode, and I haven't created that integer yet. But just like whenever we were doing the ladder diagrams, I want to go ahead and use the value 0 as my stopped or off position. So I'm going to come in here and edit an expression, and it's going to be sys_mode, and then I'm going to put colon equals, which is how you assign the value to a tag using this text language, and then I'm going to set that equal to 0, and you terminate your expression with a semicolon. So at that I can jump out of here, and you see it's giving me an error because of course my sys mode is undefined. Let's go ahead and take a new tag, and it didn't populate my name, so I'm going to go ahead and just fill that in. And I do want it to be an int, and for the scope I'll go ahead and just put that in my main program. So at that I can hit create, and now you can see I've got my sys mode, and that little error bubble has disappeared. So whenever I first start my system, what I'm telling it to do is make sure that this thing is not running. Set it to off. Now when do I want it to start running? Well, I want my transition to happen whenever somebody pushes the start button. So I'm going to come down here and enter a Boolean expression, and I'm just going to create the tag start btn, and let's right click that and create a new tag. this is not going to be an int, this is going to be a bool, and I can go ahead and create that. So now, once somebody hits the start button, I'm going to transition away from this step and come down here to the next step. So let's go ahead and bring in that next step right here. And that next step is going to be going into my standby mode. So I'm going to rename this step. I'm going to call it sys_standby. And let's right click that and go ahead and create it. So we've got a new sys_standby. It's an SFC step. I like that. And let's create an action over here. That action is going to be taking our sys mode and assigning it the value with := of 1. So once we come into this step, that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this thing equal to 1, and at that point we're going to consider ourselves in standby mode while the machine tries to decide where it wants to go. Does it need to fill, drain? Is it low, is it high, or can it just stay in standby until one of the level sensors changes? So now we've got 4 different places that we can go to after this step, which means we need to explicitly define 4 different options coming out of here. So I'm going to take this divergent branch here, and then we also need to extend the branch. So I'm going to extend it once, and then I'm going to extend it twice. So now we have 4 different possibilities. And under each one of these, I can go ahead and create a step. So let's just go ahead and punch those in. And let's see what each of our steps is going to be. Well, the first possibility is that we're going to go into fill mode. So this is going to be sys_fill. And then this next one is going to represent drain mode. So sys_drain. Coming over here, we're going to have the possibility of sys_low. This next one's going to have the name sys_hh. And then I suppose there's actually one more option. Whenever we're in standby mode, somebody could go ahead and turn the system off. So let's extend the branch one more time and create another step and transition under that. And we'll call this one sys_off. So now I've actually got all these, and I have to go through and create tags for each one of the names of these steps. That's not a big deal, but it's just something that we have to get through. And now coming out of standby mode, we've got the possibility of going into 5 different places. And look at that, I called this one sissy fill. Well, I'm not trying to fill any sissies. I'm just trying to fill a system. So let's go ahead and rename that before we create it. Perfect. Okay, so now we're still getting errors along these different transitions because we haven't actually, given them a condition. So a transition without a condition is not a happy transition. Now from there, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this whole thing and pull it over here a little bit. From there, we've got at least something partially set up, and we could go ahead and fill in the rest of this. We're going to take a break here and come back in the next lecture and keep working on this, but you're going to see real quick that we're about to hit a roadblock here. We are about to struggle a little bit. So take a break, grab a Mountain Dew, and when we come back, we'll figure out exactly where to go from here. So I'll see you then.